I'm Dwayne Russell, and I'm hanging out with Mitch and Phoenix on Zero Hanger. I was sacked at 26 and had to go and find myself a job.
I'm just so fascinated by your brain, and you just have...
And I said to Dennis, you know, how long did you have that in your kit bag for? I think he had it ready to go for 7 years. And I used to love the pancakes for breakfast on game day because they dissolve in your stomach. They did cater well for that game, but they didn't cater well with the amount of portaloos they had in that China game.
Hey mates, today we are hanging out with Dwayne the Pipe Russell, the man, the myth, and now the author of Killing for Sport. We obviously talk about the book, his choice to write a fiction book, which is really good. I'm about halfway through it and I really highly recommend it. We talk about that. We talk about a lot of things, the Beatles, Taylor Swift, a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily footy related, but we do tie it around to Port Adelaide and Geelong. So it's a really fun chat that we did with Mitch Keating as well. And yeah, enjoy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Let's get to it. Alrighty, Dwayne Russell, the Pipe. Welcome to Hanging Out. Thanks for hanging out with us. How are you?
I'm good. Phoenix, Mitch, or is it Mitch and Phoenix? Which way around is it?
Phoenix and Mitch.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice to be with you, Phoenix and Mitch.
Yeah, nice to have you on. All right, let's start off with the book. Like, people know who you are, but they don't quite know you as an author. So, fiction.
Yes. So I've been trying to get this book written for 20 odd years now. It's been a great process. I've enjoyed every part of it. So it's fiction. It's thriller, kind of action, crime fiction. It's a fast-paced read, and it starts with Jackson and Sarah, high society wedding. Jackson doesn't turn up at the wedding, and we go back in time to find out why they're childhood sweethearts and a bit about their life, and then we go forward in time as to find out where Jackson ended up being and why, who's he tangled up with. He's an artist, so he gets involved with a few people in the art world. It's pretty much about art fraud, really, is the main part of it, even though Sarah's a skater, an Olympic skater. So, yeah, it's a fast-paced thriller that hopefully will keep people engaged. Hopefully it's a bit of a page-turner for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of different elements in the book. So
you've read it?
I'm about 100 pages in.
Oh, nice.
So we got our copy last week?
It was Monday or Tuesday last week, I think, just before the
so
release date.
We've had to share it. I only gave it to Mitch for about last night.
And your thoughts?
I'm really enjoying it.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'll be honest, I don't read this genre very often.
Yep.
It's probably the first time I've read a book that's like an action thriller type of thing. But I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, good.
Start strong.
You're saying
strong.
that because I'm here, though, aren't you?
No, generally.
No, we were having a bit of a chat, like obviously pre-production chat, kind of
Yeah.
going through some points that we both kind of stood out. So no, like I said, start strong. Keen to finish as well. So much to like so far.
Thanks for plugging it. So I've had some good reviews coming from independent people, which is nice because up until this point in time, it's only people that I know that have read it. People, friends, and people that are invested in it, like the publisher firm. So it's going to be nice to get more reviews. So if you want to tell me what you think, I'm on Instagram. You can always let me know. I'm keen for the feedback, to be honest. So
have you had anyone call into the show, the feedback of the book?
Have had a few, but I can't really talk too much to them about it because it sounds a bit self-indulgent on my show to be talking about my book. People call to talk footy. Yeah. So there have been a lot of people text in and call through so far. In the last couple of days, I've had someone who read it on the way to Egypt. I've had someone reading it in Vietnam. So, it's travel time of year for a lot of people and Christmas coming up. So, it's good to get the feedback.
It's the perfect Christmas gift. Like, I mean, I think I'm going to say your audience is probably dads at Christmas.
Well, it's funny because more women are liking it.
Really?
I'm getting a lot of feedback from women. Well, Sarah, when I wrote it, Sarah I always thought was going to be the hero for me. But I got to about chapter 50, and it's a bit like the reading of it. I didn't know whether I wanted Sarah to win or Jackson to win or both to win or the art dealer, Sebastian Lee, to win. So it's going to be interesting to find out which side people take when they read it, whose side they're on.
Yeah, okay. No spoilers. Like Mitch only hasn't read as much as me, but he flicked ahead to other portions of the book.
Yeah, I was looking at some little bits here and there.
Yeah.
I was trying also not to spoil it for him as he was not trying to spoil it for me. It's good, like I said, good timing because I think wasn't there a big art thief thing in France?
There was in the Louvre. Yeah, so a lot of this is set. So it's not set in Australia. It's not an Australian novel. It's an international adventure. And when I was writing it, I wanted to make it an adventure for me, taking me overseas. So it's mainly Paris, London, Monaco, French Riviera, places that that I've been to that are really vibrant, that I've really, when I've been there, thought it's not a down and sort of dirty novel. It's a high society, living it up, Monaco Grand Prix kind of novel. So yeah.
So the parts of the book. So the main element is like art theft, but it also like displays that you have. I don't know. Did you research a lot about art history for the book, or did you already have that? Because there's a lot of Picasso in there, and I love Picasso. But was that something that you already had in your knowledge that you drew from?
Kind of married into a family of, there's a couple of artists in it. Yeah. But I've always had an interest in art, like I've always had an interest in writing. So when I go to Paris, I'll go to the Louvre, but I'll also go to Musée d'Orsay or the Orangerie to have a look at the Monets. And, when I go to various places around the world, I'll make sure I go to the gallery, because there's always, even a week ago, I went to the Geelong gallery and saw the finalists for the Archibald Prize. So I've always had an interest in art. There is a lot of art research in this, but you're right, there's a lot of details about mainly Picasso, but Degas and Monet and Sisley and all those, the Impressionists of the time. So it takes us right back into the late 1800s and the early 1900s when Picasso and a lot of these artists were, and a few of them were hanging around with Hemingway and all those kind of people. So yeah, it takes us back into that time as well.
Yeah, you obviously said it took 20 years or so. I'm sure that's quite the process, but what was maybe the biggest catalyst to get it moving maybe that little bit more across that time?
I needed a job, so Geelong sacked me at the end of 91. And I'd always been pretty good at English at school. So I got through year 12 on the back of sport and English pretty much. And when I came out of school, I passed year 12. I applied to be a trainee journalist at the Adelaide Advertiser, but I didn't get in. And then I focused all my attention into being a footballer. So I've always had an interest in writing, and I always got that feeling of worth from my English teachers at school who praised my stuff. And you need some schoolyard cred. You need a bit of praise every now and then from your teachers to get you by. So I always wanted to write. And then when Geelong sacked me at the end of 91, I knew I had to coach because I didn't really have any other skill base. I had to stay in footy. And I went for a job interview down to coach one of the teams in Warrnambool in the Hampton League. And it was driving on the way down there thinking, well, because I always thought I was going to just be the greatest footballer of all time. I'm going to win a couple of Brownlows and a few premierships, and I'll have a job till 34, and then I'll do this, that, and the other because I'll be famous. Didn't quite work out that way. I was sacked at 26 and had to go and find myself a job. So I was driving down to Warrnambool. I thought, okay, I can write some fiction here. Maybe I'll channel my energy into that. Started to bubble some stories around in my mind. And then over time, I got to get some more experiences through the media. So I called the Equestrian at the London Olympic Games, which had me in London for 3 weeks, visiting galleries and doing all that kind of thing as well. I called the skating at the Vancouver Olympics as well. So I did the skating there. So there's a lot of skating, Olympic skating in this. And when I met my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, she was a skater in Adelaide. So I kind of knew a bit about the skating world as well. So yes, there's elements in this book that I've had a base knowledge on, but I enjoyed getting deeper into the research. So there's a lot of research, and you probably haven't got to the war bits as well, but
no,
there's a little bit of talking about the late 1800s and the early 1900s. My grandmother's still alive, so she's 98. So she's in a home, but she is German. She grew up pretty much on the Poland-Germany border during the Second World War as a 16, 17, 18-year-old in what was a pretty brutal time, especially to be a teenager, let alone being anybody in Europe. But about 15 years ago, I sat down with a tape recorder with her, and I said to her, can you tell me the story of the war? Can you tell me what it was like? Because she got pregnant with my mother during the war, or post the war, to a Russian soldier. So post the war, when the war ended, it wasn't all rosy and everyone's dancing in the streets. It was still a really difficult time for many of the nationalities in Europe. There was a few repercussions for the Germans. And the Russians took over that particular part of Europe at that time. So she was working for the Russians. She had no choice. She was growing lettuces on a farm for the Russians, and that was her job, to be able to get herself a lettuce to eat at the end of the day. To cut a long story short, she struck up a friendship with one of the Russian soldiers, got pregnant to the Russian soldier, but he was in trouble when it was found out that she was pregnant. He was going to get in trouble for getting one of the female workers pregnant. Yeah. So he had to get her out. So he helped her get on a train to Dresden and told her how to get off when she got off in Dresden, which way to go. Don't stick to the streets, the main roads. You have to go through the forest to, virtually walk your way to the west. He helped her get away when she was pregnant. She, in the middle of the snow and the winter, there was no wall at that stage. She couldn't go any further. She was pregnant, tired, snow was falling. She sat on, it's just the story she told me when I taped the story. She sat on a tree stump and gave up and prayed, and the snow stopped and the sun came out, and she continued her journey west, got to the west, had my mother, and because my mother was born, now I'm on the earth. So that's part of the story that she told me 15 or so years ago when I put the tape recorder in front of her. So now I've got an understanding of a bit of that background.
My goodness. So incredible.
That's incredible.
So that tape recording, do you just hold that for yourself, or is that something that might serve another purpose? Like, would you publish it at some point, or is it something that you'd hold really dearly to yourself?
I won't publish it for a while because my mother didn't want to know much about her father. She didn't want to know about this Russian soldier. So there was a while I had done the recording with my grandmother because my mother didn't know the story, and two, didn't want to know it. I wanted to know it. So since then, there's been cousins who've asked me to listen to it. There's other relatives that have asked me to listen to it, and my mother has listened to it since then. So, and my kids have listened to it as well. So, and I've been back to Germany with my kids and my wife, and I've gone to see where my grandmother lived, and we've gone to see parts of Germany, the old flat where she grew up. Because my grandmother and my mother came out here to Australia when my mother was 12. Yeah. So my grandmother just decided to pack up and come over to Australia in a ridiculous story on a boat because a friend of a friend who'd moved to Australia, German friend, said that she's got a friend of a friend who's got this chateau in Royal Park. It's this little house in the middle of
South Australia.
Near Albert. Yeah. Would she be interested in coming over and living with him? And she said, well, I want to get out of Germany. So the guy sent over a letter and a photo, said, I'd love for you to come and live with me, bring your daughter. And he sent her over the boat fare for two. There you go. Yeah. And she came to Australia off the basis of a friend's recommendation and a little photo. Ridiculous stuff.
Just a different time. Yeah. But I mean, not that long ago, because I've got kind of a similar story. So the reason I was born in Australia is because my auntie struck up a romantic relationship with an Australian man in the mid-80s. Yeah. Just based off letters back and forth. Yeah. And then when she came over, she brought over my father. So, I mean, that was only 20 years ago. Yeah. Now it's an app, so you don't have to do that.
That's right.
But that's such an incredible story, and it's so important to have that as part of like your family history and stuff. So, my father passed away about 2 years ago. You've just recently became a father. Yeah. How important is it to record those, like that family history and
It was important for me to know because, the Germans were obviously hated for a long, long period of time. So it was interesting for me to know what it was like for my grandmother and my mother as Germans in Australia. But I think they were lucky in a way that Australia was such an embracing multicultural country at that time. There were a lot of Germans in Adelaide at that time as well. I used to go to church with her, to the Lutheran church on a Sunday. I wasn't religious at all, but I used to go because that was her family. The church gathering, it didn't seem like it was a religious experience. It was just the getting together of a community group, and they would hang around together for hours after church and go to each other's houses and all that kind of stuff. So it was important for me, but I'm not the kind of person, like if my kids wanted to hear it, well, it was there for them to hear. If my kids didn't want to listen to the tape, no big deal either. But it was important for me to know about, my Russian grandfather and my heritage as well. So it's good to have that understanding.
Yeah. Seems like those around you also help kind of in the process of this shape the book. Obviously little personal things in there as well. How'd you go with some of the maybe it's finding the right names for the characters, little details here and there. How'd you go with that process?
It was fun. It's all fiction. but a lot of it's bounced off true stuff, like the Picasso. A lot of the Picasso research. I mean, that's all true about Picasso and how big he was, and a lot of those painters in the late 1800s, they were the rock stars of their time. No one could do what they did. I mean, everybody would look at their paintings, and they were famous on the streets of Paris. These guys in the 1920s, that had produced such great stuff in the late 1800s as well. They were rock stars when they were going to Gertrude Stein's house for parties back in those days. And, for people who don't know who Gertrude Stein was, she was this magnetic person who had all the who's who of Europe wanting to come to her parties of an evening. So, that's where a lot of this is based on truth, but it's all fiction. And a lot of that sort of 1920s world is woven through this, including, the background to Sarah's skating teacher as well, that has a bit of an impact as to Sarah's personality in this.
So your wife was a skater, and
Yes.
there's a beautiful passage at the start of the book where Jackson sees Sarah skate for the first time.
Yes.
That had to be influenced from real life, surely, at some point.
Well, I think there's a beauty and a grace to skating, but there's also a beauty and a grace to seeing an athletic person at their finest, whether it's a basketball, a dunking, or what it might be. But there is probably an extra little bit of beauty and grace. And I've got tickets to the ballet in a few weeks' time. I mean, there's a bit of that kind of culture that I go to the ballet and I probably see the athleticism. I'm looking at the muscle definition and how can they do what they're doing. But I understand how much training must go into it to get their bodies and their abilities so refined. So there is a bit of that, trying to bring out the beauty and the grace in people, and the beauty of the artists at the time, the beauty of the Olympians of the time as well, and how much they were rock stars in their era.
This is such a weird aside, but when you brought up ballet, literally last night I was looking at this article, like a photo gallery of like ballet dancers' feet and
Yes.
like how damaged they get. Because like when they stand on their thing, they're like literally on the tips of
Yes.
their toes. I thought that was just an exaggeration, but they're literally on the tips of their
Yeah.
toes, and then their feet just get so damaged over time.
Well, there's a bit of that. Degas was one of the great painters of that time who painted ballet dancers, and part of this in this book about Picasso wanting to do what Degas was able to do, paint. I mean, he painted dancers and harlequins and all the acrobats of the time at that time, Picasso, but he did want to paint ballet dancers, but Degas was the one who painted them in such a fashion that it became almost his forte. So there's a bit of the way of painting ballet dancer back in the day. You would never have painted a dancer without her hands and fingers and toes and everything being in the right place, because it would have disrespected their craft. But there were some of the great painters of the time that would get them in a quiet moment, just sitting down, lacing up their shoe. So, yeah, it does dive into that area. So I'm glad you've noticed it.
I love this as an art history podcast now.
on a probably lower scale, one part in there that I did come across was love for Rolling Stones, but hate for Bruce Springsteen. Now,
Yes.
is that true with you as well?
Well, I've never really got into Bruce, but
Me neither.
I do love he and Tom Morello's version of Old Tom Joad. So there are some songs that Springsteen sings, but I've never been into Springsteen. So there is a bit of that. That's true, probably. I've written that bit in about how do we know that what you're saying is true? How do I know this is you? And Jackson says, well, test me out with a question about music and you'll know if I'm telling the truth. This is the two guys on either ends of the world talking on a phone, one of them saying that he's safe. And he said, well, how do I know you're safe? He said, well, ask me about Springsteen, and if I give you a bad answer, then a wrong song that I don't like, you know I'm in trouble.
Okay.
But if I give you a song that I do like, you'll know that I'm telling the truth, just in case he was held captive at the time.
I'm worried you're going to tell me a spoiler for the book.
No, I don't want to tell, I won't tell you the
I
full
generally want to get to
spoiler,
the
but
end.
it gets down to the fact that he has to tell him a song that his friend knows that he does like.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
tell him that he's in no trouble. So, yeah, there's a few music analogies.
Well, you're a
in
big
this.
music guy.
Yeah, I am. So I
Yeah.
went and saw Jack White
Oh,
about
right.
a month ago at the Forum
Yeah.
here live. So there's a bit of Jack White
Okay.
in this. Love Interrupted is one song that sort of was woven into this book. They're listening to a song called Love Interrupted together, the two of them as childhood sweethearts. And I want a love that, slams my fingers in the door and, cuts me like a knife. I want that kind of really intense love. And she's trying to tell him that she's telling him virtually if, we've met, we've had a great day together as, it's puppy love. But if I'm not burning with desire to see you tomorrow, then you're not the man for me. My love has to cut me like a knife. So there is a bit of that in this. She's virtually saying, today was great, but if I wake up tomorrow and you're not the first thing I think of, then you're not for me. And it gets to the stage where in this book, and the original title was 36 Red, because the title of Killing for Sport is a play on the Shakespeare King Lear line, we are like flies to wandering boys, are we to the gods, they kill us for their sport. Like the gods are playing with us, with the lives we have, like boys play with flies, pulling wings off. And they are being played with by the gods with good luck and bad luck and the things that happen to them, Jackson and Sarah, almost as if the gods are torturing them at times in this, so to the point that they play a hand of roulette or a spin of roulette in this. And Jackson virtually says to Sarah, if 36 Red doesn't come up, then we're not meant to be with each other. So they bet their whole relationship on one roll of the roulette ball. So that's why 36 Red was the initial title. But Killing for Sport probably tells more about what the book's about. It's about the gods playing with and torturing people.
I need to brush up on my Shakespeare, but I'm just so fascinated by your brain, and you just have so much recall.
I'm
for
60.
Things. I know, but
I'm a sponge. I've learnt. I've been involved with so many people over time. I listen to conversations. I read. I've accumulated all this stuff that has been probably of no value, really, until I've written this book, and now all of a sudden it's
thrown it all in there.
Yes, it's of value now. My background understanding of, and, visiting art galleries and things like that. It's now hopefully going to pay off if people buy and read this book.
Okay. Back on music though.
Yep.
What are you listening to at the moment?
Well, my son's a musician.
Yeah.
So
okay.
he owns a piano bar in Geelong.
That's right.
And he plays
yeah.
quite often around Australia. He's got a show. So he's a cruise ship musician. He was. He gave up the cruise ships, but he couldn't name you 10 teams in the AFL.
Right.
Yeah.
But if he's heard a song, he can play it.
Yep.
So he's got a requests bar where you walk in there and say, I want Bieber or I want Coldplay. So if you yell out Coldplay Clocks, he'll play it. He knows it. So my knowledge, my love of music these days is sort of born out of a bit of trying to be contemporary and getting an understanding of, Taylor Swift songs, because he does do a Taylor Swift show.
Yeah, you're going to get requests.
Yeah,
for
so
Taylor Swift as well.
so there's a bit of that, but it's also been, because he's always been interested in music, trying to find something that you've got a love in common with your own kids is an important part of it. So introducing him to the Rolling Stones, introducing him to the Eagles, introducing him to, almost making him watch a few Beatles specials to get an understanding, because he gets the Beatles requested all the time, but he doesn't quite understand how big they were, the dynamic of the Beatles. In fact, if I can tell you one Beatles story.
Was your parents?
Yes. How did you know that?
Yeah. I do my research.
Nice. So my parents, I was conceived the week that the Beatles came to South Australia. So the Beatles arrived, Beatlemania hit South Australia, and that same week I'm conceived. So there, there's a bit of my love of the Beatles that probably stems back to that time. So there's a lot of music references in this. I do have a love for music, so that enables me to dive into that in this novel as well.
You've made some Tame Impala references in your
Yes.
favorite.
Yes.
My favorite was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was a Freo game for sure. I think it was feels like we're going to go backwards.
Yeah.
I was just like, I couldn't tell if I loved it, hated it, but like big fan. So I was just like, oh, it was perfect.
Have you listened to the new album?
I haven't listened to all of the new album yet, but I'm a bit upset that Tame Impala don't come back to Australia and play that off, and I can't believe they haven't got them for the grand final.
Yeah,
that is
a huge missed opportunity.
They'd have to be waiting for a Freo granny, but
Yeah,
at
maybe.
the same time, it's like too late to turn around to get that going. Perfect, because I think they would
Play it for nothing?
satisfy all 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Like every age. It's rock, it's pop.
Maybe the AFL don't
beats.
know how big they are, maybe.
Yeah.
But look, there's a
100%
few.
they don't.
I mean, there's a lot of music. I listen to music on the way to the ground all the time for every game, and there's a lot of lines that happen in music that I think, that'll be good at some stage. Or, there was the Treloar goal this year where I used the line, I fought Treloar and Treloar won, when he evaded a couple of tacklers. So there's that. But there's also, there's a lot of movie references maybe that I throw to in commentary, the mesmerize. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yep.
The Star Wars reference. There's a lot of music references, movie references. So I love weaving all that stuff. And there was one that I did this year that no one really even got. So it was just for me to enjoy. But there was a draw that happened this year between the Adelaide Crows and the Brisbane Lions. Mm-hmm. And I'd seen the Barbie movie the week before.
All right.
And I'm a big Billie Eilish fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the draw happened, and the players, the pictures that we showed were of the players in despair. And I said, they don't know how to feel. It's not what they were made for.
Oh, I do remember that.
But no one ever thought of it as a reference to Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Which was, at the time, I thought, well, the pictures demanded that kind of line to me. But as I got off air, I thought people are going to think I'm an idiot for rolling a Billie Eilish line in at such a critical moment of the commentary. But funnily enough, a month went by and not one person ever realised it. So there it is. It was just there for me.
No, perfect. Like, were you listening to that on the drive-in?
I'd listened to it, and I'd seen the movie, and I don't know whether I was trying to get Billie Eilish tickets at that stage.
Oh, you probably
because
were.
I couldn't get them.
Yeah.
And I was one of these people who was on hold for 8 hours trying to get concert tickets, and in the end up missed out.
Sure, you got some people you could call.
Well,
some
yeah, no, I'm not that big.
or...
Unfortunately, I'm not that big.
Probably a good time then to ask you, who do you think would be the best grand final entertainment that hasn't happened yet? Or like most ideal? Like Tame Impala is pretty up there.
Yeah,
Do you have to be Australian leaning, or can we go?
I
Because
think
if you go
Australians
international,
it should be Australian.
Yeah.
Like I think they would just do the best job. But yeah.
In terms of cut through, worldwide, to get the biggest audience ever, and Robbie Williams was big, but if you could get Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr together on the MCG, they don't play together ever.
Yeah.
The other two are lost to us. But if you had those two, maybe with George Harrison's son, who plays guitar as well, he's a very good guitarist.
Yeah.
And George Harrison was underrated as a guitarist. He was
My favourite Beatle. George
Yeah,
Harrison.
well, that's some of the songs that he sung.
Something?
Yes, and I've actually weaved a line in.
Yep.
there we go.
Something in the way he moves. Scott
Yeah.
Pendlebury.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, something in the way he moves. So there's been,
Brilliant.
and there's the movie that came out, about a month ago that uses the,
The AI.
no,
the
it's
AI song? Did you
the
like
scary movie, where the kids all go missing.
Oh,
yeah, the one I know what the
yeah,
thing the kids
I've
do.
got it downloaded, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so the kids all go missing at the start, and they don't know in this
Haven't
little
seen it.
town.
Yeah.
Well, they use the George Harrison song at the
Something.
start of it. No, not something, but I'm talking about the dark, being lost in the dark. So, I think I'd love to be able to know it. Can someone yell it to me? Yeah, tell me what that song is. And I wish I knew the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a one-word title.
Yeah, I remember I know exactly the
Yeah, the
pose the kids
poster
do.
Yes,
around
that's
all
the
that.
one.
The
Yeah,
teacher
yeah.
and everything. I wanted to see
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So we'll probably we'll Google that later.
I don't think the AFL would have the budget for McCartney
And
or
And
Ringo.
Ringo.
Somehow.
Yeah,
No.
they'd probably have the budget for just Ringo.
no,
Probably
that's
not
right.
McCartney.
Well, Ringo. Well, all the kids would know who he is because they grew up with Thomas.
Yeah,
So who's this guy, Mum
Yeah.
and Dad? Remember Thomas the Tank Engine? That's him. So it wouldn't be Ringo Starr, the drummer from the Beatles. He'd be the guy who is the voice of Thomas.
Take engine. Yeah,
I guess we I don't know, someone like Tame, like we said, Tame Impala's too short of a turnaround, but like close with Dua Lipa.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then she probably could bring
Yes,
out someone like
yes.
Kevin Parker for that. So there's options. There's
Yeah.
always options, and we seem to always kind of settle. But I understand there's scheduling issues all the time, isn't there?
One thing that came across in my research as well that I just found hilarious. So in a previous life, I was doing all the stand-up comedy in my early 20s.
Yep.
And I used to do this bit about how everybody, like anyone with an Aiden name, so Jaden, Caden, Braden, were always the same type of dude.
Right.
So I learned in my research that you were born Shane.
Yes.
And then you got changed to Dwayne.
Yes.
Which to me is the most lateral move ever. But like, why was that done?
So my mother was, I think, 18 when she was pregnant, and my father about the same age. And, to be pregnant and unmarried at that time, she was sent off to the convent, and I was supposed to be sent out for adoption. And my mother couldn't give me away. And my father also, in the end, couldn't have me go and be adopted. So my father decided to stick around, and they got married about a year after I was born. And my father at the time said, well, he's becoming a Russell now. So I was born under my mother's maiden name, and she picked the name Shane. But my father said I preferred Dwayne, so can we make it Dwayne?
We just changed it.
Yeah.
How old were you when you changed it?
About a year they changed it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Just like that.
I don't know how he got Dwayne, but
So there's no, like, you never found the reason for the actual, like, liking of Dwayne
No.
over Shane?
his brother was called Wayne, so I don't know why he would go with Dwayne. It's a weird scenario, but yeah, that's the way it was. So yes, thankfully my father stuck around.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't sent out for adoption, and instead of being Shane Zelitis, as I would have been, or Shane Doulis,
Yeah.
I was Dwayne Russell.
I love that. Do you know why you're named Mitch?
No. It would have been Matilda if I was a girl. That's all.
Oh,
I
there
know.
you go.
Oh, okay.
That's my sister's name. So
Yeah.
it kind of adds up. But no. What about Phoenix?
So my dad had a bit of a Joker thing going on where he would just tell me a different reason every time I asked him.
Right.
So it used to be because he liked Charles Barkley, so the Phoenix Suns. He said River Phoenix at one point. But then when I got older, I realized that my older sister's name is Phoebe.
Right.
And I think he just named me to match her. So
Right.
PHOEBE
Nice.
and then PHOE
There you
Nix. And I don't think that was
That's cool.
Yeah, but
Better story than mine.
it's about as confusing, I think. But yeah. All right, we should probably talk some footy stuff. This is actually a footy podcast. If you didn't know.
I forgot about that.
Well, out of everything I want to know, let's go back to Samful, Port Adelaide. The finger breaker lace jumpers. I think you've spoken about them before. Obviously, they don't exist for very good reason, but you would have played in them.
I still got one at home, mine at home. So when you got your first game for Port Adelaide, you got fitted like you were getting a suit fitted for you. So you got fitted for the lace-up jumper. They measured you at training, and within a day, it had been produced for you to lace up and wear. It was tight, and it was exactly to your measurements. And there was a piece of pride to having that jumper made for you. It was crafted. It wasn't just someone who manufactured it in some sort of giant consortium's manufacturing plant. It was made for you by someone down the port who was a craftsman tailor. So yeah, it was a big moment.
But were they comfortable? Because they looked
absolutely.
Really?
Like a suit of armor. It was like you were a suit of armor being sent out to parade and go to war. Yeah, that was your battle dress.
It was the injuries though, wasn't it? Like someone getting their finger
There
caught.
were a few.
Yeah.
They got their fingers
Hence the
broken.
name,
Geelong actually had Bruce Linder wore one for the Cats when I played there as well. So there were a few in the AFL as well. They were impossible to tackle. You couldn't tackle people. You couldn't grab the jumper like you can now.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing.
Skin tight, basically.
Yeah, and they were canvas,
Well, that's
pretty
like,
much.
Yeah, perfect for avoiding tackles. Even
Yes.
now they're quite tight.
Yeah.
But like you said, you can still
You
get
can
a little
grab them.
pinch on
Yes,
them.
exactly.
So there was always just one thing
Loved it.
about the Samful because they had a bit longer than what the VFL had.
Yeah.
when they had them as
Still
well.
went.
Yeah.
Can I tell you my favorite Dwayne Russell call?
Yes.
So
Flatter me if you can. pick out a good
well,
one.
it was I think it was one of those moments that really just reignited my love for footy. So I'm a big D's fan.
Yes.
And obviously it hasn't been a great time for D's fans throughout. I'm only 31.
Yep.
But, we had a big adventure there in 2021. But one of my favorite calls was, do you remember the Christian Salem game against Essendon?
Salem.
The game winner? I think it was 2013.
Yeah, what have I gone with in that?
It wasn't anything like super amazing, but it was like, because that was like the moment that I was like, oh, this team actually might be something. It was the Paul Roos resurrection before your very eyes.
Oh, nice.
That one?
Well, hopefully it wasn't too schmaltzy and
no, it was
kitsch,
great.
and I mean, I can sort of put too much mayo on stuff.
No. Because like for D's fans, I think every D's fan, we wouldn't have heard any commentator talk that positively about our team and give us that much hope and optimism for a very long time. Because that was, for me, the start of, hey, this team, like, we're not absolute shit anymore. Because it's like 2013, Roosy's in for a year. We have this young Christian Salem that's just kicked a winner over Essendon, a team that I didn't like and I still don't really. So that was like one of my moments where I was like, and I think it was the first time I actually took notice of you as well as a commentator, because I was like, this is locked into my brain now as a formative memory for, especially footy wise.
I'm flattered by that. No, I am, because my job is to see everything as glass half full. So even the worst team in the competition, I like talking them up. If a team's 7 goals down at 3/4 time, I mean, there's still the possibility. We saw it with the St Kilda Melbourne game this year. It's my job to call the good bits of the game. So to call the great mark, not complain about the fullback who didn't punch it away. Yeah. To call the great goal, not tell everybody, well, that should have been smothered. Yeah. That was an easy smother, but he missed it. So I leave that to the special comments guy. So hopefully, with that call, it gave an indication that, I'm talking things up as opposed to, well, the D's aren't going to win another game after this one. Yeah. They've got lucky today.
Yeah, we've heard that many times.
That's the last thing I want to be doing. Yeah. As a commentator, I want to be pitching hope. So at the end of the game, the D's fans that walk away thinking positive about it. And I've always been like that, hopefully, with my call of the Suns when they've been down, or, my calls of the West Coast this year.
Yeah, you've done a lot of Sunday doldrum games like that. So when that is the majority, or not the majority, but a lot of your calls are in that time slot.
Yep.
How do you does that mean that when something big like that happens, like the Nasai, like it just adds another layer of expectation or excitement?
Yeah. Well, because every team, be them down the bottom of the ladder or whatever, they've always got the stars who can kick your goal of the year or take mark of the year the very next second. So it might be 10 goals the difference with 10 minutes to go. There's no chance that they can win. The crowd's 8,000. It's the Giants at Giant Stadium versus Port. Hardly anyone there. Lower on the ladder team. But Himmelberg might be about to take the greatest mark that's ever been taken.
Yeah.
So I always, when I'm calling, keep that in mind. We all do. Yeah. It's not just me. I mean, Hutto, all of us. We keep that in mind when you're calling a game like that. Don't tune out. Don't all of a sudden start to get slack, because the next moment might be the most amazing moment in the history of football. So, you always have the belief that, Liam Ryan, West Coast are terrible at the moment, but Liam Ryan could still take mark of the year. You got Harley Reid, could do something that we've never seen before. So you do have the opportunity to have those moments. And the Eagles might lose 12 in a row, and then I've got them the next week. But this might be the day.
Yeah.
You never know. That's the beauty of footy. Yeah. So you got to be ready for this. What if this is the day for the Eagles? You better be ready to bring your good stuff on the Eagles, and that's what I do in terms of my prep. I scenario train my mind to think, I better be loaded up in my head. What did the West Coast win this game? What am I going to say if this is their first win of the year? What if a guy does kick 10 goals today? What if Harry Himmelberg does take mark of the year? What if Jesse Hogan does kick 12? What am I going to say in those moments? So people think I've got all these things written down, but I kind of hopefully go into a game having got myself and my brain ready for what scenarios might occur.
How many extra scenarios do you reckon you would have per game?
Well, there's always the scenario in my mind that a guy might kick 10.
Okay, yeah.
But it depends on who.
Yeah.
So it might not be a great line that's going to be echoing in people's minds forever. Like Tex Walker kicked 10, and it was a pretty simple, the Texas 10. It wasn't that big a deal in terms of the cut through of the line, but it kind of just felt like it was okay for the moment.
Yeah.
as opposed to taking away from Tex's moment and making it all about me with what I've got to say in this moment. So there's a few things that happen like that. I mean, there's the Sam Draper, he enticed him, he sliced him, he diced him goal. So that was, I think that was from an NBA game 5 years before it ever happened with Sam Draper. And it wasn't the whole entice him, slice him, dice him, it was just slice and dice. And I always had that in my mind, slice and dice, what a great terminology that is. But when Sam Draper got the ball and he enticed them, and then bang, slice and dice was in my mind. It's not like I had it written down, it just fitted the moment. So it was in my mind to come out with that at some stage maybe because I'd loaded it in there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think my favourite commentary moments aren't even the best or like a well-written line or like prose or something. It's just the excitement of the commentator. Like, because if it's a big moment, is it like when you know that it's going to be a big moment, are you sort of safe in the regard that pretty much anything you say with the right excitement kind of works?
Well, you still have
can you really stuff it up? Like,
you can.
Yeah.
You got to find the right adjective. I mean, you got fantastic, unbelievable, phenomenal, he mesmerised them. You got all these adjectives in your mind because you got a brain full of words, but you still got to actually have them come out in the right order at the right time, and they have to be the right words to add a little bit to the moment but not go over the top with it. I mean, you want to sell it, but you don't want to oversell it because then it just gets to the ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just loading yourself up with lines, it's loading yourself up with words that hopefully your brain will be able to come up with at the right time that happen. So, yeah, not everything is about lines. It's about, putting it into nouns and verbs. Put it that way.
Do you have like a favourite line from another commentator said and you thought, I wish I thought of that?
I have been lucky in that I've called with some of the greats. So early on it was Ian Major from Captain of the Major, which he was a great caller, so I called with him. He was a great entertainer but a great caller as well. I called with E.J. Whitten, who was a great entertainer and a great caller. Called with one of the great showman callers of all time, Eddie Maguire. But I learned a lot from Dennis Cometti as well. I mean, Dennis, there was a moment where Jason Graham, who was playing for the Saints, got tackled and his shorts came down and Dennis went with strippergram. And it was just like a beautifully articulated moment.
Yeah.
And I said to Dennis, how long did you have that in your kit bag for? I think he had it ready to go for 7 years. But the moment had to happen. So there's an art to it as well. And Dennis was as good as any caller artist that's ever been. And I would say that the librarian line in the grand final for Nick Rewalt, Dennis probably had it ready to go for a while. But it needed that kind of moment in that bigger time for the grand final for him to pull out his greatest line of all time. If the moment didn't happen, he couldn't use it. But he had it ready to use if the moment happened. And it was just a beautiful synchronicity.
Yeah.
Dennis Cometti calling one of the great moments of grand final history, and he called it so well. So to cut a long story short, that's probably the greatest moment, I think, in commentary that we've ever had.
Yeah. I think was
Okay.
Dennis, and you were saying about this before, how you can even get all the words right, but you've got to get them in the right order.
Yeah.
And he went up optimistically, but came down misty optically. I can't believe you could nail that.
It's almost like he's a freestyle rapper.
Yeah, absolutely. It's poetry.
I
mean, that's where song lyrics come into it because, there are a lot of song lyrics that even I throw out. There was, 4 Carlton players tackled one, I forget who it was, I think Hawthorn player this year, and he kind of tripped over one of them, and I said Tangled Up in Blues, which is the line from a Bob Dylan song.
Yeah.
But it's the title of a Bob Dylan song. But there's a number of those things that if you have it in your mind because the moment might come, hopefully when the moment does come, you remember the line. But it's something that you can also overdo. So I'm really careful about that. I mean, won a game and that's it.
So if you have like some lines or things tucked away, would you have some saved for, it's like you've thought of something, you'd be like, nah, I can only use this in like a big finals game or something.
No, not really. If the moment happens, like there's no kryptonite for Crips tonight, for example.
We were talking about that earlier today.
So you need the moment to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in a grand final. I'm not going to save that for calling a grand final with Patrick Cripps, but that was one where he just took the ball out of the middle, pushed off a couple, and he was already like being their Superman in that game. So it was able to weave itself into the commentary that he was their Superman, and that's where, it was just a perfect moment for that to be able to come out. But if Patrick Cripps hadn't been playing like Superman that night, then it would have been one that I wouldn't have dared go with. But it was lucky that he was Superman that night.
Well, if that never happened that night, would you have taken that out? Would you have like tried to save that for another game?
It might still be sitting in here ready to go, thinking, geez, Patrick Cripps has only got 2 more years of footy to go.
Yeah.
So I better get it loaded and ready to go at some stage.
Do you have everything in a notebook, or do you have it like?
No,
it's
in my head.
Up in there? Man,
it's in my head. But when I do a line, I will sometimes write it down to say, don't ever use that again.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because sometimes even it's a minor thing, like these are not the droids you're looking for.
Right.
So I might, use that because a player just, weaves his way past a couple and, fends them off and they can't touch him. But once it's done, it's done. And I've got to remember I've used that line. So the perfect scenario might come up to use that again, but I can't go there.
Yeah.
Come up with something better.
Do you have one in mind that you're really hoping you get to use?
No, I don't. No, I wish I could give you one now that's ready to go. But no, I don't have any. I wish I'd have had something to go with when Scott Pendlebury bounced the ball
on a pigeon.
On the pigeon. Yeah, so he bounces the ball on the pigeon, and I'm calling, and I thought I saw it, but I didn't call it live because I couldn't believe what I'd seen.
Yeah.
So I actually called the replay guys and said, did Pendlebury just bounce the ball on a pigeon or a seagull or whatever it was at the time? And they rolled the tape back. So there is vision on YouTube of me calling it. Here's Scott Pendlebury bouncing. Pendlebury's bounced the ball on a seagull here.
Yeah.
So there is that post it happening line.
Like the replay of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, in terms of song lines, I wish I'd have gone with I want a plover that won't drive me crazy, maybe. But, the moment's gone now, so I can't use that.
That must be the hardest thing with commentary is like, because you do it every day of your life. Yeah. You're in the shower and you're thinking of like a conversation you were having a couple of days ago and be like, oh, I should have said that.
Yes, exactly.
So how often does that happen?
Well, if Scott Pendlebury this year bounces the ball on a plover, I might squeeze that
locked and loaded.
You're the only one that's heard that song line, so maybe I'll get it out there.
Oh, very good.
I love that. Favorite players to call at the moment?
As I said, every team's got one or two.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're a bottom team or a top team, but it's the guys who can take a mark.
Yeah,
they're the ones. If you can take a screamer,
so you think a mark is better to call than a good goal?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
The big mark is. Look, if there's a lot of extraordinary goals kicked, but there is still the ability to be able to take the greatest mark that's ever been taken.
Yeah.
So I always go into games, me and Hutto, Hutto and I were good friends, and quite often I will say to Hutto, oh, I love that call of such and such last week, and Hutto would, or he would say, oh, how good was that mark? You caught it well. And I would say, gee, I wish you got a bit higher. Or what about that one that he dropped last week? That would have been mark of the century. So, it's the guys who can take a mark.
I guess like same with the drop marks. Goals might be hard because you don't know if it's going through until the very last second.
Yes.
So there are a few times, obviously, like you think, yes, perfect, and then obviously just fades late or hits the post
exactly.
or something. So they can be tricky, can't they?
Yeah, and just wrecks it for you.
Yeah, I've always laughed at that where you can hear it in the commentary where it's like, oh, they had such a good line there, but it didn't. It was a behind. Or...
Well, I'm really happy with the way that I called the Ben Keys goal that wasn't with the Adelaide Crows against Sydney at Football Park a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with that the climax of that game was so intense. And that was such a wonderful goal. And I'm glad that I called it a goal live. Okay. And then we got the whole "it's nicked the post" kind of drama.
Yeah.
And in terms of the way, as a team, we worked on Fox Footy that night to wrap that up. I think that was one of the better bits of team commentary. But I'm glad I called it a goal. It wasn't a goal. But I'm glad I didn't undersell it and say, "Oh, he snicked the post." Yeah. Because there was more drama in it than that.
Yeah.
It was a goal. Everybody saw it was a goal.
Yeah.
And in the end, it didn't snick the post. Just because the umpire said it did. Or just because, we ended up getting that as a result.
Yeah. I love footy.
One part of your commentary, I think everyone knows by now, is the kind of the snacks, the Coke, the milk, coffee, whatever it is, the chocolate. What was maybe when you were a player, trying to balance, well, obviously, 80s, 90s footy, you probably don't have the strict diet regimen back then, but what was the kind of in between? I'm assuming you're not having 2 litres of milk at
coffees,
half time.
and there were coffees, and I think there was the equivalent of Red Bull back then. But caffeine was something that, I would get into. There was also I've been an overloader on sugar, as you can see, for quite a while. So, sugar tends to give me the energy that I've got quite a bit. So I used to lean on that as a player. But you can, now that dietitians will tell you, well, you'll deplete your reserves pretty quick and all that kind of stuff. So, no, there were no dietitians really around barking at you to eat this, eat that. But one thing I did like back then, and I did eat a lot, because there was a pancake parlour in Geelong. Yeah. And I used to love the pancakes for breakfast on game day because they dissolved in your stomach. You could eat 10 of them. And pancakes, I don't know if you know this, but they dissolve pretty quickly in your stomach. They don't sit in your stomach like a steak does.
Really?
Yeah. So that was...
As in, you process them fast?
Yeah. For some reason, you're able to digest them really quick without having the drama of trying to digest a steak for breakfast.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to test that out.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself eat a lot of pancakes.
Steak for breakfast also
seven stack at Pancake Parlour. Are they one of the sponsors of your show?
Unfortunately not. They can be now. Yeah, we'll send this clip out to them.
Yep.
With that, did you ever have a maybe a poorly chosen meal pre-game or?
No, even now. That's why I stick to what I eat and drink before the commentary. Because I know that if I get a sandwich from Queenie's, a salad sandwich, which is just around the corner from Fox, take that to the ground. I know what's in my salad sandwich. I don't have to worry too much. I don't want to eat some sort of meal pre-game that I've never eaten before. Doesn't agree with me. So I want to stick to my family block of caramello, family block of peppermint, my twirls, because I know what I've got. There was the game that I did in China a few years ago when Port were playing in China, and I had a pre-game meal that day that was not part of my normal routine. And they did cater well for that game, but they didn't cater well with the amount of portaloos they had in that China game. So at halftime, there were desperate measures taken. So, ever since that moment, I'm cautious about what I eat pre-game.
Yeah. So, okay, this diet that you have, though, because do you only usually call one game a week? Two on Fox, yeah. And you're smacking sometimes down 3. That.
But I will always go home and watch it back. So I'll get on the treadmill and walk.
Yeah.
I always watch my games back.
That is something that's incredible to me, that you watch. So you're watching the same game to us and you're reviewing. So you're listening to a lot of yourself. I have a little bit of experience with that because I listen to podcasts of myself.
You don't know how you're going to improve.
Yeah, and the same with comedy back in the day. You would record your set. Yes. But it was always harrowing having to listen to yourself.
You have to, you do.
Could have done that better. Yeah.
Anyone ever asked me for advice as a commentator now, it's listen back to the games you've done. You're your own best critic. You're the one that can... If I don't watch your game back, I don't know that I've said fantastic 3 times in one quarter. So, I've got things that I say that I've got to get out of my commentary, and sometimes they sort of squeeze in there subliminally that I don't even... Like last roll of the dice... things like that I've got to get out of my commentary. I can't say it every game. And until I watch myself back, I don't know, or scratch that for tomorrow. That can't believe that I said amazing 3 times in the space of 10 minutes. So, I watch it back and I critique myself. Did I call that goal well enough? Did I get excited enough about that mark? Did I leave enough space to hear the crowd? Did I leave enough space for my special comments guys to get enough stuff in? Did I shut up enough? All that kind of stuff. You're not just watching it back for the critique of what you said. You're watching it back to critique whether you shut up enough too.
Yeah. What about the other feedback, like external feedback that you get on your show as well? Because like surely that comes through. How do you handle that? Because we get comments in our YouTube videos and whatnot, so we're kind of in that arena now. I've always found it kind of easy because I'm not an expert by any means.
No, but then I think you get a thick skin pretty quickly when you figure out who you're dealing with sometimes.
Yeah.
So the radio show I do gets about 300 texts a day.
That's
so crazy. Every day we take 40 to 45 calls a day, sometimes more than that, but it's pretty much that kind of number, 40 to 45. It's a good number to give people enough chance to have their say, but not giving them too much because I got 5 callers on the line that are waiting and they've waited half an hour. So 300 texts odd a day, and I read them all, and some of them on a Monday are pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But some of them, they're brutal, but they're correct. You said Sam de Koning when it was Tom. A subliminal mistake that I know I made accidentally in the middle of play, but someone's picked up on it and they've sent a text in saying, "You idiot." And I know they're right. So it's okay. I've got a thick skin. It's okay. But there are some people who just don't like you anyway. So they'll say something nasty about you because they just don't like you.
Yep.
So that annoys you for a minute, 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
An hour at most.
So
but you got to sort of let them slide away because they just don't like you anyway. They're being trolls.
Yeah.
Forget about them.
But you're used to just the sheer volume because like 300 texts a day is like insane.
Yeah, well, there might be I might have opened up a talkback topic as to who's been the best centre half forward of the era. So a lot of those texts I might have come through just say Dermot Brereton, or Nick Rewald or what. That's all the text is. Yeah. So they're not all, and they might just fly through. What's the greatest game ending we've ever had? And I'll get text Nick Davis's. Hutto's call, I see it, but I don't believe it. So I might get 30 texts saying exactly that. So I don't read them all out. I might read one. Sharon says, Nick Davis had a few texts on that. Thanks for your text. So, a lot of those are texts like that. It's not all of them are texts telling me, how to cure cancer. They're texts about, footy stuff that are pretty succinct.
Yeah. Obviously, talkback. You get a lot of your regulars.
Yep.
Is there someone maybe that might have called once or twice you wish, or what, and it stays in your mind, like whether it's the answer they might have given or just something, how they came across? Like, would you like to hear from again?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever have a caller like the caller who we finally got on after he'd been waiting 40 odd minutes. And he said, I said, "How are you?" And he said, "Yeah, great. 40 minutes on hold, stick it up your ass." So that was we'll never have a caller like that again. It was a great comedic moment. I mean, it was someone who got sick of waiting, but they were able to have their say in a funny way, and it was just a beautiful moment, really.
I remember their name was Mitch. It wasn't me.
Mitch,
but,
that's right.
I remember their name was Mitch.
Yes.
Do you get people that calling through and then that it's them?
I do get a lot of people who put on a voice.
Yeah.
And I know.
Like mates or something?
No, I don't get any. I don't have any friends. So most of the friends that I've got.
I'll be your friend, Dwayne.
No, most of the friends I've got are in the business.
Okay, yeah.
So they're not going to call. Okay. But hey, Dermot does call, but he'll call as Dermot.
Yeah.
He won't call and put on a voice.
Yeah.
But Dermot calls a bit.
Yeah.
Or Dermot will text me in the middle of the show, or quite a few of the people that I work with. They're all in the industry. Most of my friends are in the industry. I get a few texts from, ex-players like, Buddha Hocking or send me a text during the show, but most of them don't ring. But I do get a lot of texts from those insiders, but none of them have called yet and put on a voice. So,
well, maybe they have and you haven't picked up on it.
Maybe they have,
and
I haven't picked up on it. A lot of people will tell my producer, I want to talk about Charlie Curnow, and then we'll put them on and it'll have the line, Ian, Charlie Curnow. So I'll go to Ian, you want to talk about Charlie Curnow? And then he comes on and he actually wants to talk about Barney Smith. So I'll get a lot of people who lie. So, we have to, you call, you get on. But some people might get on to be nasty to someone deliberately or whatever. So I've got to be cautious about that. You know, you can be honest and you can be critical of someone who deserves to be critiqued, but sometimes people get a bit too nasty personally. So, you know, I'll cut them off as well. But no, I don't vet the calls. You call, you get on.
Well, how do you handle being in this industry, like criticizing someone and then knowing that you're going to run into them at some point, and how then you don't know whether they've heard your criticism or anything like that, or you know, you might have said, I don't think you're a particularly critical guy, but you know, you may have said something in a call, like, you know, he's off his game, blah blah blah, and then ran into them later. Like, do you find that awkward? Or
well, the good part, as I mentioned with my commentary, I'm the glass half full guy.
Yeah.
So I talk about the mark that was taken and the goal that was kicked, as opposed to, well, how bad was that smother? He didn't want to hurt himself. He only half went at it. That was the worst sport. If Dunstall or Gary Lyon or Gerard Healy, it's their job to say that was the worst attempt at a spoil of all time. You know, they can say, well, they have to take him off.
Yep.
He hasn't been able to do the job in the last 10 minutes. It's time to get him off. So they might have problems. You know, Kane Corns would have problems running into people on the street. Hopefully I don't. And a lot of my criticism, I don't mind if people confront me. I mean, I think Bailey Smith should have been sanctioned for his abuse of the female photographer. I've said that he should have been fined or suspended. And if he sees me in the street and confronts me about it, I'm okay with it, because I'm okay with that opinion.
Yeah.
What about the flip side? So when maybe you were a player and might have been external criticism from media, and then you go into the media a little bit. Did you have kind of any of that as a player?
Well, so Bob Davis, one of the great entertainers and commentators of the Channel 9, you know, Bobby Skilton, E.J. Whitten, Ron Barassi, they were all on the show, Channel 9 Wild Water Sport, and they had their Sunday show. And Bob Davis, at one stage, they were talking about why Geelong lost, and I was one of the players that played that day. And they asked Bob Davis to go through the team, the ones he'd get rid of. And he went down the list, you know, Bruce Linder, he's okay, I'll keep him. And Billy Brownless, I'd be giving him another game. Russell, nah. That was what he said. It was Russell, nah. So, and I did run into Bobby quite a few times over time, but his assessment of my game was probably right. You know, I had a terrible game, and maybe I was, and Geelong did cut me at the age of 26. I was at a stage of my career where, you know, my right to be on the list was in the balance. And funnily enough, my wife and Bobby Davis's daughter both taught at Geelong College together, so they became fairly close friends, actually. So, you know, the Davis family, I still, you know, to the day he passed, love Bobby Davis. You know, he was an icon. So, no, I never held any grudges. They were honest.
Did you ever bring that up?
I think I did.
Yeah.
And he would have known. I think I did bring it up. But that's okay. You know, Bobby was a legend. You know, you have to understand that it wasn't personal. He was just assessing my game. And at the time, he was probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, at the time it was nah.
Yeah, it was, Russell, nah.
How long have we done, Jeremy? I just want to make sure that we don't hold Dwayne for too long. About an hour? Yeah. Oh, geez, that flew by. Oh, Dwayne, I could pick your brain for another hour if we had. But any last questions?
No, well, just back to the book.
Yeah.
We got a prequel, we got a sequel. What do you? It's not going to take another 20 years, maybe,
one?
but
there'll be a second and a third. I mean, the thing with most publishers, they don't really want a one and done author.
Yeah.
I mean, they play a lot of time, energy, money into promoting you. So if they deem your fiction to be good enough, and they deem mine to be good enough, and there's an old story in life, you got to find someone who believes in you as much as you believe in yourself. And Kate Blake, who is the main person at a firm that has decided to go with me with this. So, a firm obviously have got me with the intention of 2-3 fiction novels. So, I've already started the second one. I look forward to your assessment on Instagram. Well, give me a call on what you think of this one when you've got through it.
I will.
And everybody else can follow me on Instagram and give me your assessment of it as well. And there'll be a second at least.
Okay, last plug for it. If you were, what would you liken it to? Like if you like, I don't know, any other similar books like it. So like, I don't know, Da Vinci Code or something.
The good part is that I don't think it's like anything that I've read.
Okay.
It's fast-paced. It's an international adventure. It takes you on a holiday, takes you on an international adventure to great places, London, Paris, the French Riviera, Cannes, Monaco. And I don't think it's like anything else. No one dives into both art fraud and Olympic skating. No one's got that whole relationship kind of vibe that I've got happening in this. So I think it is a little bit different. So I'm glad it has. It's got death and romance, and you haven't got up to the death part yet, but you will.
Spoiler.
So it's got all of those things in there that hopefully will be a different read for people. And I think I would find that, look, if anybody was going to say that it's like anything, I think the greatest novel I've ever read is The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
So, that would be the most flattering thing to have it compared to, but it's not like that. But it is a little bit of high society, so there is a bit of that vibe in here.
Yeah, and it's modern day high society as well.
Yes,
too.
exactly.
Last thing.
Yeah.
But it's also good for people that don't know who you are, because like some people I reckon are going to pick this up, don't know who you are, going to appreciate the prose and whatnot. But also, do you find it weird that people might be reading it in your voice? Because your voice is really clear in my brain. And then sometimes when I'm reading the book, I'm like, I'm reading this as Dwayne Russell.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, the audio book is available in a week. Or by the
Ooh.
time this goes to air, maybe it's available then.
Yeah.
And it's not my voice.
Oh.
So I've got a professional in. And the professional is so much better than I could have done.
You're a
it.
professional.
So the audio book will be out. So you can get the audio book. And it'll be interesting to see what people think of the audio book read as well. But it's better than having my voice on it. So you can read it with my voice in your head. But
I
if you get the audio
I
book,
like
it might
reading
be
it with your voice.
a completely different story. But I have had some, for this to sell, for this to be a success, it has to be sold to and enjoyed by people who don't know me, that are just buying it because they've heard it's a good read. So word of mouth and reviews are going to be huge for me. It's not going to be a success if it only sells in Australia.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't sell overseas, then how am I going to get the movie? So hopefully
it is quite a cinematic book.
Yeah.
Like I watch a lot of movies, and that's the vibe that I'm getting from it.
It's funny you say that because I got an independent review. I was just reading it. It's on my phone. An independent review by a girl by the name of Rebecca, who I don't know, but it's such a beautiful review. I was reading that just before we started because it kind of summed up where it's at. And to get that kind of independent review from her, I should read it to you, but it kind of sums the novel up from an independent person like I've been hoping it would get summed up. So for those people who don't know me, it's probably even better. I want people who don't know me to read it.
Yeah. Well, we're independent. We love it.
Yeah. Well, you know me now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you
Yeah,
contact me in a couple of weeks' time and you've read it, you'll be biased because I was on your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be reading it in your voice. So yeah,
that's right.
Anyway, Dwayne Russell, thanks for hanging out with Zero Hanger.
It's been a pleasure to hang out. Thanks for having me.